Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to sincerely thank Dr. Carlos Orioni for his kind invitation to participate in this prestigious Congress. The advances we have made in recent months range from improvements to the Analyzer Pro software, to which we have added various functions performing OCT, angio-OCT, and transillumination in selected cases, the use of a dry eye test and analysis of the corneal endothelium in special cases, conducting a genetic test for open-angle glaucoma in high-risk cases, the use not of one but up to 6 lasers for different indications in different patients or even in the same patient, the development of new eye drops to complement the laser technique, and the construction of a new automatic laser with 2 modes of operation. The Analyzer Pro software features a series of maps, starting with a general colorimetry map, where we can see all the colors present in the iris. The second map allows us to see the 4 types of melanin. The third is a 2-dimensional black and white topography map to highlight the irregularity of the surface. The fourth is a dynamic color 3D topography map where we can observe in a very educational way the progress of the laser treatment. We have added a 360-degree map of the chamber angle and the trabeculum. We have also added a risk panel in the form of a traffic light with 3 lights, green, yellow, and red, assessing a series of parameters, as we will see later. And finally, an evolutionary quantitative analysis of the progression both between different eyes and within the same eye at different stages. At the top left, we see a general colorimetry map of a grade 2 with little pigment and a clear appearance. Next, there is a melanin map where we only observe eumelanin that is very dark in the absence of pheomelanin, lipofuscin, and trichomelanin. Following that is a 2-dimensional black and white map showing the irregularity of the iris surface. The next map is a dynamic 3D topography map, which we use to assess the progression of the treatment. The next map is a 360-degree representation of the chamber angle and the trabeculum. And finally, the risk control panel displayed as a traffic light where we assess 6 factors. The first is the degree of pigment, followed by the depth of the anterior chamber, the chamber angle, intraocular pressure, tonography, and flare. With the aim of ensuring the anatomical and structural integrity of the iris, we have incorporated 3 techniques: OCT, angio-OCT, and transillumination. With these, we can obtain a sagittal view of the iris. We can take measurements of the total thickness of each layer of the iris, quantitatively assess the density of the posterior pigmented layer, the stroma, and the anterior pigmented epithelium, and thus have a clear idea of the anatomical integrity of the iris. Angio-OCT will provide us with a comprehensive and detailed idea of the current state of vascularization of each individual iris after carefully performing a certain number of laser treatment sessions. And finally, transillumination is a very useful technique for detecting areas of the iris where the posterior pigmented layer has been destroyed, which, as we all know, should not be removed, since it ensures protection against ultraviolet rays. Here we see 2 OCT images of the entire anterior segment with measurements of the total iris and partial measurements of the anterior pigmented epithelium, the stroma, and the posterior pigmented layer. Angio-OCT is a technique that, although we do not perform it routinely, can be very useful in selected cases where there is suspicion of iris atrophy due to an excessive number of laser sessions. As we can see in the upper left, we can perform a quantitative analysis of the number of vessels detected, divided into 8 zones of the iris, And as shown in the lower part, we can carry out a comparative study of the iris vasculature before starting the sessions and its evolution throughout the different phases of laser treatment. Transillumination is a very useful technique to ensure the anatomical and structural integrity of the iris because it highlights areas of the iris where the posterior pigmented layer has been destroyed, which, as we all know, is the one that provides protection against ultraviolet rays. We have added two types of analyses to the protocol, one for dry eye and one for the corneal endothelium. For those patients in whom there is a suspicion of primary dry eye or dry eye secondary to contact lens use, allergies, blepharitis, or systemic diseases, and the performance of a specular microscopy in cases where laser sessions may cause corneal edema in order to make an accurate differential diagnosis. The dry eye study is comprehensive and quantitative. It evaluates the quality of the tear film, the tear meniscus, the breakup time, the Woods factor, takes photographs of the anterior segment and infrared images of the meibomian glands, and even includes an automatic diagnosis of the type of dry eye present in the patient. Specular microscopy is very useful because it helps us make a differential diagnosis between the two types of edema that we may occasionally see in our patients, such as inflammatory edema, which we see at the top left, or DLK, which we can also observe in exceptional cases and which, as we all know, is immunological in nature. We have observed a very high level of specificity between cases of early elevation of intraocular pressure and positivity of the genetic test for open-angle glaucoma. The test we perform evaluates 5 or 6 genes related to glaucoma and classifies them as low, moderate, medium, and high risk. And it is closely related to patients who experience an early elevation of intraocular pressure that takes at least a month to return to normal. And these are the patients with a poor prognosis from the outset, with grade 5 pigmentation, very dark and dense pigment, and a family history. Here we can see 3 real examples from our own patients. On the left, a case where only one glaucoma gene shows a high risk, and the 2 on the right, where several genes, 3 in total, show high risk. This gives us very valuable information if we continue with the idea of carrying out the treatment, since we can proceed but with special preventive measures. Currently, we are using 6 lasers for different purposes in different patients, or even in the same patient. We can use the YAG laser to break up pigment deposits to eventually perform an iridotomy, or to break some anterior synechia. Regarding SLT lasers, we currently utilize 3 distinct types, one with an ultra-short pulse duration, specifically designed for eyes with lighter pigment, typically corresponding to grades 2 or 3. Additionally, we employ the regular pulse SLT for eyes that are considerably darker, generally falling into grade 4 or 5. The ultra-long pulse SLT is used to achieve results in colors like light brown, hazel, or greenish, and also for indications such as giving an extra shine to results that are already finished. Also, we use a green laser in milliseconds when what we're looking for is just a lightening of the pigment and not to achieve green, gray, or blue colors. And finally, an infrared laser for the destruction of non-pigmented tissue. In this slide, we can see examples of results where we have not completely removed the pigment because we used an SLT laser with an ultra-long pulse or a green laser with the goal of achieving only a lightening of the very dark pigment, or a result that is light brown, honey-colored, or greenish. Here we can clearly see several illustrative examples of the obtained results, presented above in a grayish color and positioned below in distinct shades of blue and turquoise blue, where we have effectively utilized specialized SLT lasers with either ultra-short or more regular pulses, a YAG laser, and also an infrared laser. A real example of a patient with initial grade 2-3 who in 3 laser sessions achieved his dream, which was to have sky blue and very bright eyes. For the past 6 years, we have been conducting research together with universities and private R&D centers for the development of new eye drops to complement laser treatment, such as heparin eye drops, aceclidine, flavonoids, and inhibitors of melanin production. As I have already mentioned at previous conferences, we are diligently finishing the construction of a high-speed automatic laser, both the advanced scanner laser and the precise eye tracker with its comprehensive 6 dimensions, all meticulously computer controlled, with 2 distinct modes, an ablative mode operating in nanoseconds and a mixed thermal mode functioning in microseconds, complete with 3 robust interlock safety systems for energy regulation, the eye tracker's operation, and the flare level. It is fully capable of performing personalized treatments based on the detailed study from the Analyzer Pro and is exceptionally useful for finally efficiently carrying out single-step techniques, and with that making it perfectly compatible with the prior use of specialized eye drops that effectively inhibit melanin production, or performing advanced refractive laser techniques such as PRK, LASIK, or SMILE, or even skillfully performing laser blepharoplasties. Hi doc, what do I have to do? Open your eyes and enjoy. Perfect. That's right. Really? Awesome, doc. In this video, we can see a simulation of how our automatic laser will work. Thank you very much for your attention and for the kind invitation. And to say goodbye, I invite you to participate in our first international congress, which will be held in Barcelona on November 7th and 8th, and will focus exclusively on ophthalmological and aesthetic laser treatments. See you soon.